The video arrived on a Tuesday night. I was sitting at my kitchen table, shoveling leftover spaghetti into my mouth and scrolling through work emails when Uncle Jim's text popped up. Need to show you something. Not easy to watch, but you should see it. Below was a video attachment. I hit play without thinking much of it, expecting maybe some family update or one of his typical fishing trip highlights. I wasn't prepared for what filled my screen. There was my sister Vanessa, her perfectly highlighted hair falling around her shoulders as she laughed. She was sitting in what looked like a restaurant, wine glass in hand. I recognized my cousin Alicia beside her and a couple of Vanessa's friends from college. So then, Vanessa was saying, leaning forward like she was sharing the world's best gossip, Alex actually believed me. Can you imagine? Her voice was slightly slurred. Drunk Vanessa was always louder than sober Vanessa. Believed what? Someone off camera asked. That I needed $20,000 for emergency surgery. She burst into laughter so hard she had to put her glass down. My own brother, who's supposedly so smart with his fancy finance degree, just handed it over without even checking. My stomach dropped. The spaghetti turned to cement in my throat. What did you even spend it on? Alicia asked. Vanessa flipped her hair. Half went to pay off my credit cards. The rest? She grinned wickedly. Let's just say Costa Rica was amazing, and Jake thoroughly enjoyed the private villa. More laughter. Someone high-fived her. And Alex has no idea, another voice asked. None. He thinks I'm still recovering. She put on a pathetic face, mimicking weakness. Thanks so much, big brother. Don't know what I'd do without you. Then she dropped the act and snorted. He's always been easy to manipulate. Ever since we were kids. The video continued for another minute, more bragging, more laughter at my expense. But I'd seen enough. I put my phone face down on the table and sat perfectly still, trying to process what I'd just witnessed. 6 months ago, Vanessa had called me in tears. She needed emergency gallbladder surgery, she said, but her insurance wouldn't cover a specialist she desperately needed. She was in pain. Scared. Could I help? I'd withdrawn money from my house down payment fund the next morning. $20,000 I'd spent 5 years saving. I'd driven to her apartment, hugged her carefully because she was so sore from pre-op tests, and told her not to worry about paying me back until she was fully recovered. There had been no surgery. No medical emergency. Just a luxury vacation with her boyfriend while I picked up extra consulting work to rebuild my savings. I picked up my phone and called Uncle Jim. Where did you get this? I asked when he answered. Alicia posted it on her private Instagram story. Uncle Jim sighed heavily. I wasn't supposed to see it. She doesn't realize I have a Finsta account to keep tabs on what the younger cousins are up to. When I saw it, I knew you needed to know. How long ago was this video taken? Last night. Vanessa's birthday dinner. The birthday dinner I wasn't invited to because Vanessa told the family I was too busy with work to attend. You okay, kiddo? Uncle Jim asked after my long silence. Was I okay? My sister had stolen from me, lied to me, and was now laughing about it with friends and family. The same sister who'd cried on my shoulder after her last breakup. Who I taught to drive. Who I thought I could trust with anything. I'm fine, I said, my voice steady despite the storm building inside me. Thanks for showing me. What are you going to do? I looked around my apartment, at the worn furniture I'd kept instead of upgrading so I could save for a house, at the long hours of work represented by my open laptop. At everything I'd sacrificed while Vanessa lounged in a Costa Rican villa on my dime. Nothing, I said. Not yet. Alex. I need to think, Uncle Jim. I'll call you tomorrow. After we hung up, I sat motionless at my kitchen table. The smart thing would be to confront her immediately. Demand my money back. Tell our parents. But something deeper, something colder, was taking shape in my mind. Vanessa thought I was easy to manipulate. That I was a pushover? Maybe it was time my sister learned that the quietest people have the most dangerous thoughts when betrayed. I'll stay silent, I whispered to my empty apartment. For now. But silence didn't mean inaction. Not anymore. I started planning my revenge the next morning. Not in a frenzied, emotional way, no, I approached it methodically, the way I tackle complex financial analyses at work. Cool. Calculated. Complete. First, I needed information. Vanessa had always been careless with her digital footprint. Back when we were closer, I'd helped set up her accounts, fixed her computer problems, and even shared streaming passwords. I opened my laptop and began taking inventory of what access I still had. Netflix, HBO, Spotify Premium, all on my family plan that I paid for. Her Amazon account was linked to mine through our shared Prime membership. And most importantly, her iCloud backup was still running through the family storage plan I'd set up years ago when she complained about running out of space for her photos. I wasn't proud of accessing her backup, but the betrayal in that video kept replaying in my mind. He's always been easy to manipulate. Her words, dripping with contempt, hardened my resolve. The backup was a goldmine. Text messages. Photos. Notes. Emails. The full digital life of a woman who never thought her brother would look. I discovered her Costa Rica trip had cost $9,700, first minus class flights, 5 minus Starbucks front villa, spa treatments, the works. The credit card etched paid off was most le designer clothes and nights out. There was 7,700, first class flights, 5-star beachfront villa, spa treatments, the works. The credit card debt she'd paid off was mostly designer clothes and nights out. There was even a 9,700, first minus class flights, 5 minus Starbucks front villa, spa treatments, the works. The credit card etched paid off was most le designer clothes and nights out. There was 701, 200 bar tab from a single night in Vegas 2 months before her emergency surgery. The more I found, the more my anger solidified into something harder, colder. I created a folder on my laptop titled Project Accountability and began downloading evidence. Screenshots of her admitting the lie to friends. Photos of her lounging poolside during her supposed recovery. Venmo transactions showing her splitting costs for bottle service while I was picking up extra consulting jobs to rebuild my savings. Around noon, my phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Hey big bro. Lunch next week? Miss your face. The casual audacity of it made my jaw clench. I stared at her message, thinking about her laughing with her friends about how easily she'd played me. In the past, I would have immediately responded, suggested a restaurant, offered to pay. The reliable big brother. Instead, I set my phone down without replying and returned to my research. By evening, I had mapped out Vanessa's entire financial situation. She was a disaster waiting to happen. 3 maxed out credit cards. Car payment 2 months behind. Rent paid consistently late. The Costa Rica trip had been the highlight of a pattern of living far beyond her means, with me as her unwitting safety net. But there was something else, something that made me sit up straight and stare at my screen in disbelief. Venmo transactions to our cousin Alicia with descriptions like Dad's birthday gift and Mom's anniversary present. Gifts I'd split costs with Vanessa, supposedly, for the past 2 years. Except I had paid my half plus Vanessa's half, which she claimed she'd reimburse me for later. She'd never contributed a dime to any family gift but had taken full credit every time. Jesus, Vanessa, I muttered to my empty apartment. How many ways had she been playing me? My phone rang. Mom. Hi, sweetie, she said when I answered. Just checking in. Haven't heard from you in a few days. Been busy with work, I replied, trying to sound normal. How are you and Dad? We're good. Dad's knee is acting up again, but you know him, stubborn as ever about seeing the doctor. She paused. We missed you at Vanessa's birthday dinner. I bit back what I wanted to say. Yeah, sorry about that. She said you were too swamped with that big project to come. We saved you some cake though. Another lie. Vanessa had never even invited me. That's thoughtful, I managed. Oh, before I forget, Vanessa mentioned you might be able to help her with a deposit for a new apartment. She said she talked to you about it last week. My grip tightened on the phone. She was already setting up her next con. Actually, Mom, we haven't discussed that at all. Oh. She sounded confused. Well, maybe she was planning to ask you. You know how she is, always thinking ahead. Always thinking ahead indeed. I ended the call as quickly as I could without raising suspicion. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vanessa laughing, heard her mocking me. He's always been easy to manipulate. Not anymore. I got up around 3 a.m. and opened my laptop again. This wasn't just about getting my money back. This was about something deeper, about justice, yes, but also about making sure Vanessa never saw me as an easy mark again. The plan that took shape in the blue glow of my computer screen wasn't just revenge. It was a reckoning. Step 1 would start tomorrow. I pulled up the family phone plan I managed and looked at Vanessa's line. She'd had the latest iPhone, fully paid for by me as a graduation gift 2 years ago. She'd been hinting about the newest model recently. I logged into the carrier website and scheduled her line to be suspended for suspected fraud at exactly 9 a.m. tomorrow, right when she'd be starting her workday. I knew from her backup that she had an important client presentation scheduled. Then I turned to our shared streaming accounts. Password changes, all of them, effective immediately. The same for the family iCloud storage. Small inconveniences, yes. But just the beginning. Before going back to bed, I texted Uncle Jim, "Thanks again for the video. I've decided what to do." His response came immediately, despite the hour, "Be careful, Alex. Revenge can hurt the person seeking it as much as the target." I stared at his message for a long time. Maybe he was right. Maybe I should just confront Vanessa, demand my money back, and cut ties. But then I remembered her laughter. Her cruel impression of me. $20,000 that represented countless extra hours of work, delayed dreams, sacrificed time. "I know what I'm doing," I texted back. "And I'm just getting started." The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. The kind that comes when you've made a decision and there's no turning back. I made coffee, checked my emails, and went about my normal routine while waiting for the first domino to fall. At 9:17 a.m., my phone rang. Vanessa. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her panicked message. "Alex. My phone is saying the account is suspended for fraud or something. I'm in the middle of work and everything just stopped working. Call me back ASAP, I'm using Mia's phone." I smiled faintly, picturing her embarrassment at having to borrow a coworker's phone. Vanessa, who always had the latest tech and made sure everyone knew it. I texted back, "In meetings all day. We'll check tonight." Simple. Believable. Exactly what helpful big brother Alex would say. My next move required more finesse. I called our parents' house, knowing Dad would be at his doctor appointment and Mom would be home alone. "Hey Mom," I said when she answered. "Got a minute? I need some advice." "Of course, honey. What's up?" I took a deep breath, measuring my words carefully. "I've been thinking about something that's been bothering me. You know how I lent Vanessa money for that surgery 6 months ago?" "Yes, that was so generous of you." Mom's voice was warm with pride. "Well, I ran into Dr. Kellen at the gym yesterday, you know, Dad's golf buddy who's a surgeon. I mentioned Vanessa's procedure, and he seemed confused. Said something about that specialist not being necessary for gallbladder surgery." The lie rolled off my tongue with surprising ease. There was no Dr. Kellen, no gym encounter. But I needed to plant the seed of doubt without revealing the video. "That's strange," Mom said slowly. "Maybe he's thinking of a different procedure?" "Maybe." I paused. Has Vanessa mentioned any complications or follow-ups to you? I've asked her a few times how she's feeling, but she changes the subject. Not that I recall. Mom's voice had lost some of its certainty. Though she did go on that trip to Costa Rica not long after. I remember thinking she recovered quickly. Costa Rica? I feigned surprise. She told me that was a work conference. Silence stretched between us. I could almost hear my mother's mind working, connecting dots I was carefully arranging. Alex, she finally said, what exactly are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything, Mom. Just confused. $20,000 is a lot of money, and I'd hate to think. I let the sentence hang, unfinished. The seed was planted. I'm sure there's an explanation, Mom said, but her voice had changed. I'll talk to your father about this. Perfect. My parents were gentle people, but they valued honesty above all else. If they started questioning Vanessa's story, it would come from a place of concern, not accusation, which would make it all the more devastating when the truth emerged. After hanging up, I checked my email to find 3 frantic messages from Vanessa about her phone. I replied to the latest one. Just got out of meetings. Called the carrier. They flagged unusual activity on your line. Something about international charges? They're checking if it's fraud. Should be fixed in 3 to 5 business days. Her response was immediate. 3 to 5 days? I need my phone now. Can't you call them again and explain? I tried. I wrote back. They need to complete their investigation. Security protocols. You know how these big companies are. I'll send you updates when I get them. Next, I logged into our Amazon account and removed her access to my Prime benefits. Then I changed all the streaming passwords. Small inconveniences, but they would accumulate. That evening, Vanessa showed up at my apartment unannounced, looking frazzled. I can't believe this, she said, pushing past me into the living room. My phone's dead, Netflix is asking for a password I don't have, and I just got an email saying my Prime membership is canceled. Nothing in my life is working. I arranged my face into a mask of concerned confusion. That's weird. Mercury must be in retrograde or something. This isn't funny, Alex. I need you to fix this. There it was, the entitlement, the automatic assumption that I would drop everything to solve her problems. Just like I always had. I told you, the phone company has to complete their investigation. As for the other stuff, I shrugged. I've been downsizing my subscriptions. Trying to save money, you know? Her eyes narrowed. Since when do you care about a few bucks for Netflix? Since I lent out $20,000 and had to rebuild my savings. I kept my tone light, casual, watching her reaction closely. A flicker of something, guilt? Alarm, crossed her face before she masked it with indignation. Are you saying this is about the money I borrowed? Because I told you, as soon as I'm fully recovered and back to full hours at work. No, I interrupted, smiling. Just making more careful financial decisions these days. Hoping to buy a house eventually. Well, I need my phone fixed sooner than next week. Can't you call them and, I don't know, pull some strings? You're good at that stuff. I sighed, playing the role of put-upon but ultimately helpful brother. I'll try again tomorrow. No promises, though. After she left, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and disgust, at her, at myself, at this whole situation. Was I becoming as manipulative as she was? The thought troubled me. That night, Uncle Jim called. Your mom phoned me, he said without preamble. She's worried about Vanessa. Something about questions over her surgery? I may have mentioned some inconsistencies, I admitted. He was quiet for a moment. Alex, what's your endgame here? What are you hoping to accomplish? It was a fair question, one I'd been asking myself. Was this about getting my money back? Punishment? Teaching her a lesson? I want her to feel what I felt, I finally said. The betrayal. the humiliation. And yes, I want my money back. But mostly, I want her to never see me as a sucker again. And after that? What happens to your relationship? I hadn't thought that far ahead. Could there be a relationship after this? Did I even want one? I don't know, I admitted. Just be careful, Uncle Jim said. Make sure whatever you do leaves room for forgiveness, hers and yours. After we hung up, I stared at the ceiling for a long time, questioning my motives, my methods, my morality. But then I remembered Vanessa's laughter in that video, the casual cruelty of her deception, and my resolve hardened again. The next phase would require more than inconveniences. It was time to escalate. I opened my laptop and pulled up the folder of evidence I'd compiled. Then I drafted an email to Vanessa's boss, the one she was always trying to impress, the one who'd approved her medical leave 6 months ago. I attached photos of her Costa Rican vacation, timestamped during her supposed recovery. My finger hovered over the send button. Was I really going to do this? Cost her her job? Cross that line? I closed the laptop without sending it. Not yet. There were other ways to tighten the noose first. Tomorrow was our parents' anniversary dinner. The whole family would be there, including Vanessa, who thought I was still completely in the dark about her betrayal. It would be the perfect setting for the next phase of my plan. The anniversary dinner was at Rossini's, my parents' favorite Italian restaurant. The kind of place with white tablecloths, soft lighting, and prices that make you wince unless it's a special occasion. I arrived 15 minutes early, wanting to be settled and composed when Vanessa walked in. Mom and Dad were already there, looking happy but slightly nervous. They'd been married 35 years, an achievement that seemed almost mythical to me at 32, with nothing but a string of failed relationships behind me. Alex. Mom stood to hug me. You look nice. New shirt? Just for the occasion, I said, kissing her cheek. Dad gave me a firm handshake that turned into a brief hug. I'd chosen my seat strategically, facing the entrance so I could watch Vanessa arrive, with Mom on my right and an empty chair for Vanessa on my left. The perfect position for what I had planned. Vanessa swept in 10 minutes late, looking stunning in a blue dress I was pretty sure cost more than my monthly rent. She air-kissed Mom and Dad, then turned to me with a brilliant smile. Hey, big bro. Any luck with the phone situation? Still working on it, I said pleasantly. Nice dress. New? She twirled slightly. Just a little something I picked up. Life's too short to save all your money, right? The casual comment, a direct jab at my more frugal lifestyle, would have rolled off me before. Now it just confirmed I was on the right path. We ordered drinks and appetizers. I stayed quiet, watching Vanessa charm our parents with stories from work, carefully edited to make her sound indispensable to her company. She'd always been the better storyteller between us, animated, engaging, funny. I was the serious one, the responsible one. The boring one, according to teenage Vanessa. So, Dad said after we'd ordered main courses, 35 years. Any wisdom to share with the kids, Margaret? Mom smiled, taking his hand on the table. Communication. Honesty. Trust. Without those, nothing else matters. Absolutely, Vanessa agreed, raising her wine glass. To honesty. I lifted my glass mechanically, staring at her over the rim. Did she even hear herself? Speaking of honesty, I said as we set our glasses down, I wanted to ask you something, Vanessa. How's your recovery going? From the surgery? Her smile faltered for just a second before returning at full wattage. Great. Completely back to normal. Why? I shrugged. Just checking. $20,000 is a lot for a gallbladder procedure. I was worried there might have been complications. Dad frowned slightly. 20,000? That seems excessive for gallbladder surgery. It was a specialist, Vanessa said quickly. Out of network. I explained all this to Alex. Right, I nodded. Dr. Winters at Lakeside Medical, wasn't it? Her eyes widened slightly. I'd never mentioned a doctor's name before. She'd never given me one. Yes. That's right. I pulled out my phone. Funny thing, I was curious about the procedure, so I looked him up. But there's no Dr. Winters at Lakeside specializing in gallbladder surgery. The table went completely silent. Mom and Dad exchanged glances. I might have the name wrong, Vanessa stammered. It was a stressful time. I took a sip of water. Must have been. Though you recovered quickly enough for that trip to Costa Rica just 3 weeks later. Her face drained of color. How did you? Instagram, I said smoothly. You forgot we're still connected. Those beach photos looked amazing. The private villa must have been nice. Mom put her fork down. Vanessa, what's going on? Vanessa shot me a look of pure hatred before composing her features into a pained expression. I didn't want to worry anyone. The surgery was successful, but I was dealing with a lot of anxiety afterward. The trip was therapeutic, doctor recommended. Nice recovery. But I was prepared. That's not what you told Alicia and your friends at your birthday dinner, I said, my voice still pleasant but with an edge now. You know, the dinner I supposedly couldn't attend because I was too busy with work? Her eyes darted around the table, looking for escape. I don't know what you're talking about. I pulled out my phone again. Should I play the video, or would you prefer to tell Mom and Dad yourself how you spent my $20,000? What video? Dad asked, his voice sharp now. Vanessa, what is Alex talking about? The look of panic on her face was almost satisfying. Almost. There's no video, she said, but her voice shook. Alicia posted it on her Instagram story. You, laughing about how you played me. How I'm so easy to manipulate. How there was no surgery, just credit card debt and a luxury vacation with Jake. Mom gasped. Dad's face turned to stone. You wouldn't, Vanessa whispered. Wouldn't what? Tell the truth? Show Mom and Dad who you really are? I leaned closer to her. I've stayed silent until now. But I'm done being your personal ATM. Mom's eyes filled with tears. Is this true? Vanessa, did you lie about needing surgery? Vanessa looked trapped, her eyes darting between our parents and me. For a moment, I thought she might confess, might show some remorse. Instead, she went on the attack. So what if I did? She snapped. Alex can afford it. He's always lording his financial stability over me, making me feel small because I don't have some corporate job with benefits and a 401k. That's not true, I said quietly. I've never. You've always been Mom and Dad's responsible one, she continued, tears streaming now. Perfect Alex who never makes mistakes. Do you have any idea what it's like living in your shadow? Always being compared? Why can't you be more like your brother? I've heard that my entire life. Mom shook her head. We've never said that. You didn't have to. Vanessa was fully crying now, mascara running down her cheeks. It was always implied. Alex gets straight A's, why are you struggling in school? Alex saved his allowance, why did you spend yours already? Alex. I sat in stunned silence. Was this really how she saw me? As some impossible standard she could never live up to? Dad cleared his throat. None of that, even if it were true, justifies lying to your brother about needing surgery. Taking his money. That's theft, Vanessa. She turned to me, her expression hardening. You did this on purpose. Ambushed me at Mom and Dad's anniversary dinner. What kind of brother does that? The kind whose sister stole $20,000 from him, I replied evenly. The kind who watched a video of his sister laughing about how easy he was to con. I was going to pay you back, she insisted. When? After the next fake emergency? Or were you planning to hit me up for a deposit on a new apartment first? I saw the shock on her face. Yeah, Mom mentioned that. Another lie in the works. Our parents watched this exchange in horrified silence. Finally, Mom spoke up. Both of you, stop. This is awful. Vanessa, I can't believe you would do something like this. And Alex, why didn't you come to us when you found out? Because this is between me and Vanessa, I said firmly. I don't need you to fight my battles. I just need her to admit what she did and pay me back. Vanessa laughed bitterly. Pay you back? With what money? You've seen my finances, you've been spying on me, apparently. You know I can't come up with $20,000. Figure it out, I said coldly. Sell some of those designer clothes. Return the jewelry. Get a second job. I don't care how you do it, but you're going to pay back every cent. She stared at me, eyes narrowed. Or what? Or I send that video of you bragging about your fraud to your boss. The one who approved your medical leave. How do you think that will go over? Dad stood up abruptly. Enough. This is not how we raised either of you to behave. Vanessa, what you did was inexcusable. Alex, threatening your sister is not the answer. He threw his napkin on the table. This dinner is over. Your mother and I need some time to process this. Vanessa, we'll discuss how you're going to make this right. Alex, I expected better from you. With that, he helped Mom up, and they walked out of the restaurant, leaving Vanessa and me staring at each other across the ruins of what should have been a celebration. Happy now? She asked, her voice barely audible. I wasn't happy. I felt hollow. Empty. The revenge I'd anticipated hadn't brought the satisfaction I expected. No, I admitted. But at least the truth is out. Vanessa gathered her purse and stood up. You have no idea what you've just done. No idea at all. As she walked away, I wondered if she was right. Had I just destroyed our family in my quest for justice? And if so, was it worth it? I paid the bill and walked out into the night, feeling like I'd won the battle but might have started a war. The fallout was immediate and messy. Mom called me the next morning, her voice strained with disappointment. Your father and I didn't sleep at all last night, she said. I don't understand how we got here. How either of you could behave this way. Mom, she stole from me, I said, trying to keep the defensiveness from my voice. She lied about needing surgery. What was I supposed to do? You could have come to us first. Or confronted her privately. Not ambushed her at our anniversary dinner. She sighed heavily. That dinner was supposed to be a celebration, Alex. 35 years of marriage is a milestone. The guilt hit me like a physical blow. In my focus on exposing Vanessa, I'd ruined my parents' special night. I'm sorry about the timing, I said quietly. That was wrong of me. Yes, it was. Her voice softened slightly. But what Vanessa did was wrong too. Terribly wrong. Your father is beside himself. He raised you both to be honest, hard-working people. Is she going to pay me back? I asked. She says she can't. Not all at once. Your father and I are going to help her set up a payment plan. Mom paused. But Alex, there's something else you need to know. Something that doesn't excuse what she did, but might help you understand. What's that? Vanessa lost her job 3 months ago. She's been pretending to go to work, but she was actually let go in a company downsizing. She's been doing freelance work, trying to make ends meet while looking for a new position. I sat down heavily. She never said anything. Of course not. She's Vanessa. When has she ever admitted to struggling? Mom's voice took on a note of frustration. She's been living on credit cards, too proud to ask for help directly. That doesn't make what she did right. It was still a horrible lie. But she's not just being frivolous. She's desperate. My mind raced back through the financial records I'd accessed. There had been sporadic deposits from different sources, freelance jobs, apparently, but nothing consistent. The Costa Rica trip had happened before she lost her job. The mounting credit card debt came after. Why didn't she just tell me she needed help? I asked, more to myself than to Mom. For the same reason you didn't tell us about the video right away. Pride. Fear of disappointing people. The same reason she's been pretending everything is fine while drowning in debt. Mom sighed again. You two are more alike than either of you want to admit. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table for a long time, turning this new information over in my mind. It didn't excuse what Vanessa had done, but it cast her actions in a different light. The desperate flailing of someone watching her life collapse, too proud to ask for genuine help. I thought about calling her, then decided against it. We both needed space. Instead, I called Uncle Jim. I messed up, I admitted when he answered. I'm guessing the anniversary dinner didn't go well? That's an understatement. I explained what had happened, including what Mom had just told me about Vanessa's job loss. Uncle Jim listened without interrupting. When I finished, he was quiet for a moment. You know, when your dad and I were kids, we had a huge fight once, he finally said. He borrowed my car without asking and got into a fender bender. Instead of telling me, he parked it in the garage and hoped I wouldn't notice. I was furious when I found out. What did you do? I asked. I slashed his tires. Uncle Jim chuckled at my shocked silence. Not my proudest moment. The point is, I thought I was teaching him a lesson about respect and responsibility. Instead, I just taught him I couldn't be trusted to handle conflict in a mature way. It took us years to really repair things. So you think I went too far? I think you were hurt and angry, and those feelings were justified. But how we respond to being wronged, that's what defines our character. I thought about that for the rest of the day as I went through the motions of my Saturday routine, laundry, grocery shopping, a half-hearted attempt at the gym. By evening, I'd made a decision. It took me 30 minutes to find the phone carrier's customer service number and another 45 minutes on hold before I could speak to a manager who could override the fraud alert on Vanessa's phone. But by 7 p.m., her service was restored. Next, I reset all the streaming passwords to what they'd been before and reinstated her Amazon Prime benefits. Small gestures, but they felt like the right first steps. I was about to text her that her phone should be working again when my doorbell rang. I opened the door to find Vanessa standing there, looking exhausted and much younger without her usual perfect makeup. Can I come in? She asked quietly. I stepped aside wordlessly. She walked in and perched awkwardly on the edge of my couch, clutching her purse like a shield. My phone started working, she said. Was that you? I nodded, sitting in the armchair across from her. I called the carrier. Fixed the other accounts too. Why? Mom told me about your job. I watched her face fall, the last of her facade crumbling. Why didn't you tell me, Vanessa? She stared at her hands. Because you're the successful one. The responsible one. I couldn't stand the thought of you knowing I failed. Again. I wouldn't have judged you for losing your job and a downsizing. That happens to people all the time. It's not failure. No, but everything else is. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed. The credit card debt. The apartment I can barely afford. The fact that at 30, I have nothing to show for my life except an Instagram feed full of carefully curated lies. The bitterness in her voice was palpable. That still doesn't explain why you lied about needing surgery, I said. If you needed money, why not just ask for a loan honestly? Would you have given me $20,000 to pay off credit card debt and keep my apartment? Really? She had a point. I probably would have offered a smaller amount, with lectures about financial responsibility attached. I don't know, I admitted. But I deserved the chance to make that choice. Instead, you manipulated me. And worse, you laughed about it with your friends. She winced. I was drunk. Putting on a show. acting like I was in control of my life when everything was actually falling apart. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. I've felt sick about it ever since. But I didn't know how to come clean without losing you completely. We sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of years of unspoken resentments and misunderstandings between us. I can't pay you back right now, she finally said. But Dad helped me work out a payment plan. $300 a month until it's paid off. It'll take years, but I'll pay back every cent. What about your job search? Your rent? I have a second interview at Wilson Marketing next week. It pays less than my old job, but it's something. And I'm looking for a cheaper apartment. She managed a small, self-deprecating smile. No more designer clothes or fancy vacations for a long time. I steadied my sister, seeing beyond the confident mask she usually wore to the scared, struggling person underneath. In some ways, it was like meeting her for the first time. The payment plan is fair, I said. But I have a proposal. What kind of proposal? Move in here, I said, surprising myself almost as much as her. The second bedroom is just collecting dust. You can save on rent while you get back on your feet. Her eyes widened. Are you serious? After everything? It's not a free ride, I clarified quickly. You still pay me the $300 a month toward what you owe. Plus half the utilities and groceries once you're working again. And we established some ground rules about honesty and boundaries. Why would you do this for me? She asked, clearly baffled. I thought about Uncle Jim's story. About how responding to betrayal was a defining test of character. About the possibility of building something new from the ashes of what was broken. Because you're my sister, I said simply. And I think it's time we both stopped pretending to be people we're not. Vanessa's face crumpled, and for the first time since we were children, I saw her cry without calculation or performance, just raw, genuine emotion. I don't deserve this, she sobbed. Maybe not, I agreed. But maybe that's not the point. As I awkwardly patted her shoulder, I realized the hollow feeling from last night was gone. In its place was something tentative but real, not the satisfaction of revenge, but the much more complicated prospect of reconciliation. It wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend overnight. But sitting there with my sister as she cried, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again, hope. The journey back from betrayal would be long. But at least now, we were both walking in the same direction. Vanessa moved in the following weekend. She didn't have much, just clothes, some personal items, and a few pieces of furniture that we stored in the building's basement. The simplicity of her possessions surprised me. For someone who'd cultivated such an image of success and abundance, the reality was startlingly sparse. Is this everything? I asked as we carried the last box into the apartment. She nodded, looking embarrassed. Most of my furniture was rented. The fancy apartment, too. It was one of those corporate housing situations where everything comes furnished. Part of the image, you know? I didn't know, actually. My apartment was modestly furnished with pieces I'd collected over years, choosing quality over flash, practicality over style. Another fundamental difference between us. The first few days of cohabitation were awkward. We tiptoed around each other, overly polite, careful not to disturb the fragile peace. Vanessa kept to her room much of the time, emerging mainly for coffee or meals. I caught her often staring at her phone, scrolling but not posting, maintaining her social media presence had apparently lost its appeal. On Wednesday night, I heard her on the phone in her room, her voice carrying through the wall. I know it's been a while, she was saying. But I can't make it to Cabo next month. No, not a money issue. Just, priorities have changed. I know I promised, but... Jake, please try to understand. The conversation ended abruptly. I heard what sounded like crying, then silence. At breakfast the next morning, her eyes were puffy. Everything okay? I asked, sliding a cup of coffee toward her. Jake and I broke up. She stirred her coffee absently. He said if I can't join the group in Cabo, I'm no fun anymore. I'm sorry, I offered, though in truth, I'd never been impressed with Jake. He seemed to exist primarily in Vanessa's Instagram posts, always with a drink in hand at some exclusive venue. Don't be. It was coming for a while. She looked up at me. Turns out when you stop pretending to be something you're not, some people don't like the real you very much. The comment hung in the air between us, a rare moment of self-awareness from my sister that hinted at deeper changes happening beneath the surface. That weekend, we tackled the awkwardness head-on with our first house meeting at the kitchen table. I'd suggested it as a way to establish ground rules and expectations. So, I began, feeling oddly formal. I thought we should talk about how this is going to work. Practical stuff first: bills, groceries, cleaning. Vanessa nodded, looking nervous but determined. I have that second interview tomorrow. If I get the job, I can start contributing to groceries and utilities right away, plus the monthly payment we agreed on. That sounds fair. I hesitated, then dove into trickier territory. But there's something more important we need to establish. Complete honesty between us. No more secrets, no more lies, even small ones. Agreed, she said quickly. I'm done with lying. That means if you're struggling, financially, emotionally, whatever, you tell me. Not after it becomes a crisis. Not after you've tried everything else. Right away. She bit her lip. That goes both ways, though. You have to be honest, too. About what? I'm an open book. Vanessa gave me a look. Alex, you're the most closed-off person I know. You never talk about what you're really feeling. When Mom and Dad would ask how you were doing, it was always fine, everything's great, even when I knew it wasn't. I started to protest, then stopped. She wasn't wrong. I'd always been private about my struggles, believing that handling things on my own was a virtue. Fair point, I conceded. I'll work on that. And one more thing, she added. No more comparing. No more responsible Alex and irresponsible Vanessa narratives. We're both adults with strengths and weaknesses. I can't live here if I feel like I'm constantly being measured against some ideal I can never reach. Her words struck a chord. How much of our dysfunctional relationship had been fueled by these roles we'd been assigned, or had assigned to ourselves? Deal, I said, extending my hand across the table. Fresh start. No more masks, no more roles. She shook my hand, and something shifted between us, a tentative truce transforming into a genuine alliance. The following week brought new challenges. Vanessa didn't get the marketing job, and I came home to find her staring blankly at her laptop, surrounded by job listings. 14 applications today, she said without looking up. Not a single response. I sat beside her. What exactly are you looking for? Anything in marketing. Or PR. Or social media management. She sighed. The problem is, my resume has gaps. And my portfolio, well, a lot of my best work was taking credit for team projects my boss actually did. The old Vanessa would have hidden this fact. The new one stated it plainly, if painfully. So your portfolio isn't representative of your actual skills? Some of it is. I'm good at social media strategy, that part's real. But the high-profile campaigns I claim to lead? I was just a team member. She closed her laptop in frustration. No wonder I can't get hired. I've been selling a version of myself that doesn't exist. Instead of lecturing her, I found myself asking a different question. What do you actually enjoy doing? Not what looks impressive or pays well, but what work genuinely interests you. She looked startled, as if no one had ever asked her that before. Maybe no one had. I like the creative parts of marketing. Coming up with concepts, writing content. And I'm good at it, that's not just me bragging. But those entry-level creative jobs pay nothing. So start there, I suggested. Build a legitimate portfolio. Focus on what you're actually good at, not what sounds impressive. While I'm making coffee at Starbucks to pay the bills? She didn't sound sarcastic, just resigned. If that's what it takes. Better than building a career on lies that will eventually collapse. She nodded slowly. You're right. I've spent so long trying to keep up appearances. The thought of starting over at 30 is terrifying. More terrifying than constantly looking over your shoulder, waiting for the facade to crumble. That hit home. I could see it in her eyes. The next morning, I found her at the kitchen table early, rewriting her resume. The job titles were more modest, the claimed accomplishments more truthful. Later that day, she applied to a barista position at the coffee shop down the street and a junior copywriter role at a small local agency. She got the coffee shop job. The pay was minimal, the hours early, but something changed in Vanessa when she started working there. A genuineness I hadn't seen in years emerged as she shed the weight of pretense. One evening, about a month after she'd moved in, I came home to find her cooking dinner, something she'd never shown interest in before. The girls at work gave me this recipe, she explained, stirring something that actually smelled good. Nothing fancy, just pasta with homemade sauce, but I thought it would be nice to cook for you for a change. Over dinner, she told me about her day, the regulars at the coffee shop, the coworker who was teaching her latte art, the satisfaction of a job that, while humble, was honest work. I sent Mom and Dad a text today, she said casually. Told them about the job. Sent a picture of my first successful phone leaf. How did they respond? Mom called immediately, full of questions. Dad texted later, just proud of you, kiddo, with a thumbs up emoji. Her smile was small but genuine. It's weird, but I think they actually are proud. More than when I was pretending to be some marketing hotshot. Because it's real, I said simply. She nodded, twirling pasta on her fork. I've been thinking a lot about why I lied to you about the surgery. It wasn't just about needing money. It was about needing you to see me as someone worth helping. Vanessa. No, let me finish. In my mind, you wouldn't have given me money just because I was struggling. But a medical emergency? That was different. That wasn't my fault. That wasn't me failing again. She met my eyes directly. I needed to believe you would help me because you cared, not because you were judging me. The honesty was disarming. For the first time, I saw how my sister's perception of me, as the perpetual judge, the standard bearer of responsibility, had shaped her behavior just as much as my perception of her had shaped mine. I would have helped you, I said quietly. Maybe not $20,000 all at once, but I would have helped. I know that now. She reached across the table and squeezed my hand briefly. Better late than never, right? That night, as I lay in bed reflecting on our conversation, I realized something unexpected was happening. In helping Vanessa rebuild her life on a foundation of truth, I was dismantling some of my own carefully constructed walls. The responsible, always in control persona I'd cultivated was giving way to something more vulnerable, more authentic. The revenge I'd initially sought had transformed into something far more powerful than I could have anticipated: reconciliation. Not just with my sister, but with parts of myself I'd kept hidden behind my own mask of perfection. My phone buzzed with a text from Uncle Jim. How's it going with Hurricane Vanessa? I smiled at his old nickname for my sister and typed back, better than expected. We're both learning a lot. His response came quickly, proud of you, kiddo. It takes strength to choose healing over hurting. As I set my phone down, I thought about how differently this story could have ended, with permanent estrangement, with a family fractured beyond repair. Instead, we were finding our way back to each other, one honest conversation at a time. It wasn't perfect. Vanessa still had a long way to go to pay back what she owed, both financially and in terms of trust. But for the first time in years, I felt like I had a sister again, not a competitor or a responsibility or a disappointment. Just a flawed, struggling human being, not so different from myself. And somehow, that felt like the greatest victory of all. 3 months into our new living arrangement, Mom and Dad invited us over for dinner. It would be the first time we'd all been together since the disastrous anniversary night, and tension hummed through me as we drove to their house. "Relax," Vanessa said from the passenger seat, noticing my white-knuckled grip on the steering wheel. "It's just dinner." With the parents we thoroughly disappointed and embarrassed in public, I reminded her. "Not exactly a casual Sunday meal." She sighed. "Fair point. But we've both been working on ourselves. That counts for something, right?" It did count. Vanessa had settled into a routine, morning shifts at the coffee shop, freelance copywriting work in the afternoons. She'd paid me on time every month, even picking up extra shifts to make sure she never missed. The flashy social media posts had stopped. Her Instagram now featured simple moments, a perfectly crafted latte, a sunset from our apartment window, her first byline on a small business blog. I'd been changing too. Learning to express frustrations directly instead of letting them simmer. Sharing more of my actual thoughts and feelings instead of hiding behind a facade of having everything figured out. It wasn't always comfortable, but it felt more honest. Mom greeted us at the door with cautious enthusiasm, hugging us both a beat longer than usual. Dad stood back, his face an unreadable mask until Vanessa handed him a small wrapped package. "What's this?" he asked. "Just something small," she said. "A thank you for helping me get back on my feet." He unwrapped it slowly, a handmade mug from the local pottery studio near our apartment. The outside was a deep blue with "World's Most Patient Dad" painted in Vanessa's handwriting. "Vanessa made it," I explained as Dad turned it in his hands. "She's been taking a pottery class on Sundays." Something in Dad's expression softened. "It's perfect." "Thank you." The initial awkwardness began to thaw as we moved to the dining room. Mom had prepared all our favorites, her famous pot roast, garlic mashed potatoes, homemade rolls. Comfort food designed to rebuild bridges. "So," Dad said after we'd settled in and served our plates, "how's the new living situation working out?" Vanessa and I exchanged glances. "It's good," I answered. "We've established some ground rules. Open communication. Shared responsibilities. Alex is a better roommate than I deserve," Vanessa added quietly. "And I'm trying to be worthy of the second chance." Mom's eyes glistened. "We're so proud of both of you. Finding your way back to being siblings again." "We've always been siblings," I pointed out. "We just forgot how to be friends." The conversation flowed more easily after that. Vanessa shared stories from the coffee shop, the eccentric regulars, the rush of morning commuters, the satisfaction of mastering the espresso machine. I talked about my recent promotion at work, the additional responsibilities that came with it. "I was thinking," Dad said as Mom served dessert, "about our family vacation tradition. Every summer since we were kids, we'd spent a week at a lakeside cabin a few hours north. The tradition had lapsed in recent years as Vanessa and I built our separate adult lives." "What about it?" Vanessa asked. "Your mother and I reserved the old cabin for the last week of August. We were hoping you both might join us. Like old times." The invitation hung in the air, weighted with significance. This wasn't just about a vacation, it was about rebuilding our family unit, about believing we could move forward together. "I'd like that," I said, surprised by how much I meant it. "Me too," Vanessa agreed. "Though I'll need to request the time off well in advance. Coffee shops run on tight schedules." "Of course," Mom said, beaming. "We'll make it work." As we helped clear the table after dinner, Dad pulled me aside into his study. "I owe you an apology," he said without preamble. "For what?" "For how I reacted that night at the restaurant. I was shocked and disappointed, yes, but I should have recognized that you were hurting too. That you had every right to feel betrayed." I swallowed past the sudden lump in my throat. "It's okay, Dad." "No, it's not. When you were kids, I always expected more from you because you were older, more responsible by nature. It wasn't fair then, and it wasn't fair at the restaurant." He put a hand on my shoulder. "I'm proud of how you've handled this, son. taking Vanessa in, helping her rebuild. That's true strength. His words hit me harder than I expected. All my life, I'd sought Dad's approval, trying to be the responsible son he could count on. Now, finally, I was being recognized not for being perfect, but for being compassionate despite being hurt. It felt like a different, more meaningful kind of validation. The drive home was quiet, both of us processing the evening. That went better than I expected, Vanessa finally said. Yeah. It did. Do you think we can really do it? Go back to the lake like nothing happened? I considered this. Not like nothing happened. That's not the point. We go back as who we are now, with everything that's happened being part of our story. She nodded slowly. I like that. No more pretending. The next few months brought steady progress. Vanessa landed a part-time position at a small marketing agency, writing copy for local businesses. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest, and she took pride in it. Her confidence grew, but it was different now, rooted in actual accomplishments rather than carefully curated appearances. I found myself changing too. The rigid control I'd always maintained over my life loosened. I dated more, worked reasonable hours instead of constantly staying late, even took up mountain biking on weekends, something I'd always wanted to try but had deemed too risky, too frivolous. One evening in July, almost 8 months after the video that had changed everything, Uncle Jim came over for dinner. Vanessa had insisted on cooking. She'd discovered a genuine talent for it, taking classes at the community center. Well, this is a sight I never thought I'd see, Uncle Jim remarked as Vanessa expertly plated a roasted vegetable pasta. Vanessa DeLuca, domestic goddess. She laughed. Don't get too excited. I still can't iron a shirt to save my life. After dinner, while Vanessa took a phone call from her new boyfriend, a barista from the coffee shop, kind and unpretentious in all the ways Jake hadn't been, Uncle Jim and I sat on the balcony with beers. Remember when you called me after getting that video? He asked. You were out for blood. I winced. Not my proudest moment, but a human one. He clinked his bottle against mine. Life's funny, isn't it? You set out to teach your sister a lesson, and you both ended up learning things you never expected. I was so angry, I admitted. I wanted her to feel what I felt, betrayed, humiliated, used. And now? I looked through the window at Vanessa, laughing on the phone, more relaxed and genuine than I'd seen her in years. Now I'm just grateful we found our way back to each other. The real versions of ourselves, not the roles we'd been playing. Uncle Jim nodded. You know what your dad said to me the other day? He said watching you two work through this has made him re-examine his whole approach to parenting. He realizes now how much pressure he put on you both, you to be perfect, Vanessa to live up to you. I hadn't considered how our journey might be affecting our parents. Really? Really? Your mom too? She told me she's been going through old photo albums, seeing all the signs she missed, how desperate Vanessa was for approval, how you were always trying to handle everything alone. He took a swig of beer. Parents are just people figuring it out as they go, you know. They make mistakes too. As the summer progressed, Vanessa and I fell into a comfortable rhythm as roommates. We had our disagreements. She was still messier than I preferred. I was still more regimented than she found natural, but we'd learned to talk through them instead of retreating into our established patterns. The week at the lake arrived in late August. As we packed the car, I felt a strange mix of nostalgia and newness. We were returning to a place filled with childhood memories, but as our adult selves, changed, humbled, more authentic. Mom and Dad were already at the cabin when we arrived, waving from the porch as we pulled up. The old place looked exactly as I remembered, weathered with siding, screened porch overlooking the water, the dock extending into the clear blue lake. That evening, as we sat around the fire pit watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Dad raised his mug of coffee. To family, he said simply. The real thing, not the picture-perfect version. We all raised our mugs in agreement. Later, after Mom and Dad had gone to bed, Vanessa and I sat on the dock, our feet dangling in the cool water. "Do you remember that summer I pushed you off this dock?" she asked suddenly. "You were reading, totally absorbed in your book, and I just shoved you in." I laughed. I was so mad. My book was ruined. "I did it because I was jealous," she admitted. "Mom and Dad were praising you for reading all summer while I was wasting time swimming and boating." "Seriously?" "I was jealous of you getting to have fun while I felt pressured to be productive even on vacation." We looked at each other in the moonlight, the irony of our childhood perspectives not lost on either of us. "We were so busy envying each other that we never saw the whole picture," she said softly. I nodded, watching the light dancing on the water. "Better late than never, right?" She bumped her shoulder against mine affectionately. "Right." As we sat in comfortable silence, I thought about the long, winding path that had led us here, from betrayal to revenge to reconciliation. The video that had once filled me with rage now seemed like a necessary catalyst, painful but ultimately transformative. Uncle Jim had been right. I'd set out to teach Vanessa a lesson and ended up learning far more important ones myself. About forgiveness. About the freedom that comes with authenticity. About the family we choose to be when the masks come off. And as the stars reflected in the still water of the lake, I found myself profoundly grateful for the journey, every painful, beautiful step of it. 1 year to the day after Uncle Jim sent me that video, I sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. The date hadn't escaped my notice. Neither had the symbolism of what I was about to do. "Are you sure about this?" Vanessa asked, setting a cup of coffee in front of me. She'd become surprisingly good at reading my moods over the past year. "I think so." I picked up my phone, tapping through to my banking app. "It feels right." With a few clicks, I completed the transfer, the final payment of Vanessa's debt. She'd been diligent about paying me back every month, never missing a payment despite occasional financial struggles. But there was still about $8,000 remaining, and I'd decided to forgive the rest. "There," I said, showing her the screen. "We're square." Her eyes widened. "Alex, no. That's not what we agreed. I still owe you." "Not anymore." I put the phone down. "Consider it a graduation present." "Graduation from what?" I smiled. "From the hardest year of our lives. From the old versions of ourselves." She sat heavily in the chair across from me, looking stunned. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything. Just keep doing what you've been doing. Working hard. Being honest. Building a life you don't have to lie about." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why now?" I'd been thinking about this question all morning, trying to articulate the complex mix of feelings that had led to this decision. Because holding on to that debt was holding us both back in some way, I finally said. "Me to the anger, you to the shame. I'm ready to let it go completely." She wiped her eyes. "I don't deserve this." "It's not about deserving. It's about choosing what kind of relationship we want going forward." And it was true. The past year had transformed both of us in ways I never could have anticipated. That night I'd watched the video of her laughing about how she'd played me. Vanessa had rebuilt her life from the ground up. After 6 months at the coffee shop, she'd been promoted to shift supervisor. Her part-time copywriting position had expanded to full-time, with a small but growing client list that appreciated her creativity and work ethic. She'd moved out of my spare room 3 months ago into a modest apartment of her own, nothing flashy, but honest and within her means. More importantly, she'd found her authentic self beneath the layers of pretense she'd accumulated over the years. She'd discovered she had a talent for helping small businesses tell their stories, for finding the genuine heart of what made them special. Her portfolio now showcased real work she'd actually done, not exaggerated claims. The transformation wasn't just external. She'd started therapy, working through the deep-seated insecurities that had driven her to create a false image for so long. She'd rebuilt relationships with friends who valued the real Vanessa, not the performative version. I'd changed too. The rigid, judgmental parts of me had softened. I'd learned to express emotions instead of burying them beneath a veneer of having everything under control. I'd even started dating someone, Julia, a kindergarten teacher I'd met at a friend's barbecue, who appreciated my newfound openness. "You know what today is, don't you?" Vanessa asked, breaking into my thoughts. "1 year since the video." She nodded. "I've been thinking about it all week. How differently things could have gone. If Uncle Jim hadn't shown me? Or if I'd handled it differently? Both." She wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "I was such a mess then. Drowning in debt, lying to everyone including myself, so desperate to keep up appearances that I betrayed the one person who'd always been there for me." I'd never heard her articulate it so clearly. "For what it's worth," she continued, "I think about that video all the time. Not just what I said, but how I said it. The person in that video isn't someone I recognize anymore. Or want to be. I think about it too," I admitted. "Sometimes I still get angry when I remember how it felt to watch it. But mostly I'm grateful." "Grateful? For finding out your sister was a manipulative liar? Grateful it forced us both to stop pretending. To face the truth about ourselves and our relationship." I leaned forward. "Think about it, Vanessa. If that video had never existed, or if Uncle Jim had never shown it to me, where would we be now? You'd still be drowning in debt and lies. I'd still be the judgmental brother you could never measure up to. We'd be stuck in those roles forever." She considered this. "So you're saying the worst thing that ever happened to us was actually the best thing?" "In a way, yes. It was the crisis we needed to break the patterns we were trapped in." Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "I need to show you something." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then handed it to me. It was an email to Uncle Jim, dated yesterday. "Dear Uncle Jim, you don't know how many times I've started and deleted this email over the past year. How do you thank someone for exposing the worst thing you've ever done? It seems impossible. But I need to try, because 1 year ago, you made a difficult choice that changed my life. When you sent that video to Alex, you weren't just revealing my betrayal, you were giving me the chance to confront who I'd become and find my way back to who I wanted to be. That night at the restaurant, when everything came crashing down, I hated you almost as much as I hated Alex for exposing me. I couldn't see past my humiliation to recognize the gift you were giving me, the gift of consequence, of accountability, of the opportunity to rebuild on a foundation of truth instead of lies. It's been the hardest year of my life, but also the most meaningful. For the first time since I was a teenager, I recognize myself in the mirror. I'm doing work I'm genuinely proud of. I have relationships based on honesty rather than performance. I have a brother who's become my best friend despite how badly I hurt him. None of this would have been possible without your intervention. You could have kept that video to yourself. You could have decided it wasn't your place to get involved. I'm endlessly grateful that you didn't. With love and gratitude. Vanessa." I looked up from the phone, deeply moved. "Have you sent this?" She nodded. "Last night." He replied this morning. She took the phone back, found the response, and handed it to me again. "Vanessa, your email brought tears to my eyes. I've watched you and Alex this past year with more pride than I can express. It takes extraordinary courage to face difficult truths about yourself and even more to do the hard work of change. You've done both. The night I sent that video to Alex, I sat up for hours questioning my decision. Was I betraying your trust? Creating unnecessary family drama? Making things worse? I finally decided that sometimes the most caring thing we can do is hold each other accountable, even when it's painful. The young woman in that video isn't who you are anymore. She was someone lost, trying desperately to be seen and valued. The woman you've become, honest, hardworking, genuine, is someone I'm proud to call my niece. Thank you for your grace and understanding why I did what I did. It means more than you know. Love. Uncle Jim. I handed the phone back to Vanessa, a lump in my throat. He's right, I said. You've changed completely. So have you, she countered. Mr. I've got everything under control now actually talks about his feelings. Who would have thought? I laughed. Julia is still shocked whenever I admit I'm stressed or worried about something. Says she dated too many guys who thought vulnerability was a weakness. Smart woman. You should keep her. Planning on it, actually. I hadn't told anyone yet, but it felt right to tell Vanessa first. I'm looking at rings next week. Her face lit up. Are you serious? Alex, that's amazing. It feels right. She knows the real me, the flaws, history, all of it, and loves me anyway. That's what we all want, isn't it? Vanessa said thoughtfully. To be truly known and accepted. Later that afternoon, as I was getting ready to meet Julia for dinner, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Your father and I were just talking about how proud we are of both you and your sister. The way you've supported each other this year has been beautiful to watch. Love you, sweetheart. I smiled, typing back a quick thanks before slipping my phone into my pocket. As I grabbed my keys, I caught a glimpse of myself in the hallway mirror. I looked happier, more at ease than the man who'd watched that devastating video a year ago, the man who'd been so consumed with revenge he couldn't see any other path forward. Uncle Jim had been right all along. Sometimes the journey from betrayal to forgiveness is the most important one we can take. Sometimes staying silent is just the pause we need before finding our true voice. And sometimes, the people who hurt us the most are the ones who help us become who we're meant to be, if we're brave enough to walk through the fire together instead of letting it consume us. I locked my apartment door, heading out to meet the woman I loved, carrying with me the hard-won wisdom of the past year, that revenge might satisfy for a moment, but reconciliation heals for a lifetime. The video that once represented the worst betrayal I'd ever experienced had become, in its own way, the catalyst for the most authentic version of my life, and for that, despite everything, I was grateful. The end. If you enjoyed watching, please do well to subscribe.